Jack Smith's DOJ, Biden White House, and NARA were in direct communication when the requested documents in question were asked to be released. And they, the DOJ and the White House counsel, responded essentially, give them the Heisman.
I don't think you're gagged. I don't know. I'm not sure. Has a judge gagged you, Kash?
No, I have to go back and check all the subpoenas from Jack Smith and company to see what those actually say. But other than that, I think I can talk.
Okay. So we got this massive order today from the judge. We just read it live on air. And he's like, I'm going to lock you up. Do it again. I'm going to lock you up. This isn't working. I'm going to put you in jail. Now, many people are saying this would be the greatest single gift ever to Donald Trump electorally. And that Democrats are so unbelievably over their skis on this thing. And that the recent polling, which we also went through earlier in the show, is eroding horribly for Joe Biden. Is this all backfiring? Would they actually put him in jail? You've been in the courtroom for many, many hearings like this. Talk us through it, Kash.
Look, I think, obviously, I never want my former and current boss to be in prison, especially for doing something that is completely constitutional and calling out unconstitutional activities of the state judicial process in New York, that is the Biden trials in New York City with Alvin Bragg. But here's the thing. Right now, he's being fined for contempt violations, which is totally bogus because it violates the free speech clause of the First Amendment. But let's go with the, lunatic judge. And he's saying $1,000. That's a civil matter. Should this judge actually hold Donald Trump in contempt and put him in jail, that is a deprivation of liberty that is immediately appealable to not only the New York appellate courts, but the highest court in New York State. Now, I think even as rigged of a system that this is, that one of those courts would overturn Donald Trump's contempt proceeding and send of the lower court Judge Marchand by sending him to jail. So I think the judge is serious when he says, I want to put him in prison. I think he does. I think he wants him in prison yesterday, last month, a year ago. He wants this guy off the campaign trail. It's clear it's a vindictive prosecution being hustled along by a cooperative conspiratorial judge whose daughter is making millions of dollars out of that information coming out of his courtroom. He doesn't care about any of that. But he might not take that last step of putting him in prison because though it'll have the immediate impact he wants, it might backfire even more. And I agree. The whole thing's backfiring. So this might be the coup de grace of backfires.
That's that's a very interesting point that you make, that this would then immediately be appealed. Would that rip the entire trial away from this judge? I mean, would there be a way to actually, would that then nuke this entire how would that work?
It would happen pretty fast. Those types of things in this type of situation would move through that. It's a pretty small issue. It's like, is he in contempt or isn't he? And how long am I going to hold him in contempt? Am I sending the guy to jail for a day, or are you just sending him to jail for 6 months or until the trial's over or something like that? That would require some immediate action. And look, I don't know that I necessarily have faith in the New York State judicial system, but I got to believe there's one judge in the state of New York, at least at the appellate level, that believes in the Constitution. Just one. And maybe we can draw that guy.
So, okay. You would effectively assume that since Donald Trump is running for federal office, that federal courts would then have a say in this. Would they not?
They have a say not in the contempt. Yes, ultimately, yes. The contempt order would have to go to state court because it's a contempt order from state court. So it'd have to go to the state appellate system. Since it's a free speech First Amendment federal issue, you can appeal. And I think they have, if I'm correct, they've already started the process, Trump's counsel, about putting that in the appellate process based on First Amendment grounds. I think you have to exhaust state court stuff first, and then you get to go into federal court, unless there's a direct issue. And I'm not the pro on this one that gets you quickly into federal court and a quick answer. Could be, but I'm just not sure.
So we have a 4-foot tall Donald Trump mugshot hanging in our studio. I wrapped some of my Christmas presents with Donald Trump wrapping paper from his campaign website with the mugshot. What are you doing? Like do they realize how stupid they are? Are we really just dealing with such low IQ people? I mean, I've watched Alvin Bragg wobble in like he's such a slob with his Dunkin' Donuts, like slobbering and slabbing all over the place. Like, are these people really just such slobs, such degenerate goofs that they don't understand what they're doing? They don't understand what like putting Trump in prison would do to the guy?
How dare you? Alvin Bragg is buying his breakfast at Dunkin' Donuts and not Starbucks. He must be a man of the people. Maybe he should try the low-fat version. But listen, I think with this guy Bragg, or what's his boss's name, Letitia, whatever, James, or the ladies and the lovers down in Georgia, or whatever they're doing in Arizona, they don't care about the law. And here's the thing. They're not stupid. It's dismissive if some people are just like, oh, they're all idiots. They're just evil. They're actually smart. To a certain degree. I think Alvin Bragg is probably moderate intelligence, but he's evil. And this judge, I think, is actually probably pretty smart, is also evil. And they've joined forces like the evil empire to say, what is our mutual goal? The assured destruction of Donald Trump. One way or the other, we're going to get this guy. If I'm going to convict him, if I'm going to hold him in contempt, if I'm going to fine him, if I'm going to gag him, if I'm going to extend this trial out through the entire summer, if it need be. And watch this move, right? I've already seen the trial days get shortened. I've seen them take afternoons off. Wednesday, they don't have a trial. I see these people going in and out running this courtroom calendar as if it were some sort of school calendar for elementary kids. So I think they're going to extend this trial out as much as they can, because what do they want? Trump in court under a gag order, not saying anything.
Yes. So how long could it go? I mean, like Alex told me, it may go 8 weeks. Like I have it scheduled for 8 weeks.
You can have a trial. Listen, I tried. Let's see, as a federal public defender and state public defender and prosecutor, I think I tried 60 jury trials to verdict. I had a 21 co-defendant narco trafficking conspiracy out of Colombia that I tried in 2 weeks with 21 co-defendants. Just to give you a little bit of an idea that I was flying people in from Colombia to testify in federal court in South Florida. So you can move really fast when you want to. You can also move extremely slow because there's no one that can tell the judge how to adjudicate his calendar. If he's like, well, we're going to take witness testimony for like an hour today, and then I'll see you next week, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. So they haven't even started that bag of tricks yet. Then they can go to the jurors, who are probably also likely in the bag for their anti-constitutional regime, and say, oh, do you have a holiday? Do you have somewhere you need to go? We're going to take the rest of the week off. This juror can't sit for 3 days. I think stuff like that is probably coming as they realize they're going to start to lose this case more and more and more and more in the public. So their goal will be just delay this thing out and keep Trump under a gag order throughout the summer. That's what I think they might be starting to realize is their best way to get Donald Trump. Now, I think it'll continue to backfire.
It's so remarkably rigged. And I'm getting so exhausted litigating this thing, because the moment you like look at the actual evidence, you're like, this is just so breathtakingly stupid. And also, I mean, I guess you could go this angle. Hillary Clinton also had a FEC violation that the FEC actually charged her with, that she got fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for the payment of the Russian dossier. We heard endlessly on an endless loop, the Comey rule. You can't charge presidential candidates. Where the hell has that gone? So for decades, like still to this very day, there are like, there are leftists sitting in a circle with a half-finished, lukewarm bottle of Chardonnay, a bottle of Xanax, like screaming and crying and rending their garments because Hillary Clinton was charged or investigated while she was running for president.
No, look, you bring up a great point. And I'm the guy that found out that Hillary used campaign dollars illegally, by the way, not just an FEC violation. Hillary Clinton used $10 million worth of campaign dollars, hid it under Perkins Coie legal funding labels, and then went out and had Perkins Coie and Fusion GPS go out and hire Christopher Steele to write the dossier. It is illegal to use publicly campaign-funded donations for political purposes, which she hid as a legal donation. Donald Trump used his own money for actual legal purposes and is being charged for a non-crime. This is a two-tier system of justice gone rogue. And you brought up the Comey rule, and this is a perfect example of a complete DOJ fiction. Where I used to work in the National Security Division, we have a rule. we have a tradition that says we don't prosecute people during this time or that time. I was like, where does that say in the Constitution? This is the Department of Justice. We act on tradition. And where is this Comey rule fiction coming from? He works for us, not the other way around. And of course, they let him take over the Department of Justice when it came to the Clinton investigation because he wanted to run the entire show. Then he didn't expect to get caught about lying to a federal judge to illegally surveil a political candidate that he also personally hated. So these people are still around and they've learned from their treachery. Jack Smith has just been exposed by Judge Cannon of doing what? Lying to a federal court. These guys keep doing it. The judge just unsealed documents in the Jack Smith case down in Florida, which says the prosecutors themselves have admitted to tampering with evidence, to moving the very boxes from one location outside of DC to South Florida before they ever even charged Donald Trump. How in the world can you not be prosecuting and charging these constitutional gangsters that are at DOJ? And they learn it from the same place, the top down, the same AGs, the same DAGs, the same FBI directors who are cheering them on. I hope Judge Cannon, he's an actual fun legal thing that should actually be occurring. Judge Cannon should be implementing actual contempt proceedings against Jack Smith and the Department of Justice for lying to a federal judge and withholding evidence of exclusion and innocence from Donald Trump. Those contempt proceedings would be righteous, and I'd like to see those. Maybe we could put Jack Smith in prison.
Well, I mean, listen, the guy's already gotten his ass kicked 9-0 at the Supreme Court for the exact same scam against Bob McDonnell. So we did a special last week. You inspired it, actually. Your post on Truth Social inspired it about the documents being effectively planted at Mar-a-Lago. I'm really glad we get a chance to go here. Yeah. So we did this sort of breakdown about McDonnell versus the United States, right? The Supreme Court case that is how Jack Smith sort of made a name for himself, appointed by Eric Holder to take out Barack Obama's number one political adversary, arguably, in the 2012 election. Right. And so Bob McDonnell was this rising, up-and-coming Republican governor of Virginia. Jack Smith was brought in as a hatchet man by Eric Holder, who's still running the DOJ, to come in and destroy him. And he got reversed over what? Like immunity. It's incredible. It's the same thing. He got reversed by the Supreme Court because they're like, you can't define, like, taking a call isn't an official act. Like, what do you mean? Like, you have no definitions here. So Bob McDonnell, sure, took calls in meetings. That's not criminal. And you have no way to prove that. And he got flipped on a liberal court. A liberal court flipped it 9-0. And so we covered that last week in the buildup to, like, them running this operation round two. Right. And all it did destroy Bob McDonnell's political career. That was the end result. The end result was the destruction of this man's potential to run against Barack Obama. So do the same thing again. And I'd love to have you expand on this because you know so much more than we do. But what they're effectively doing is they had all of Trump's documents. I mean, am I reading this right? We read your post live, of course, last week. They had all the documents, Kash? And then the FBI is like, please take them, like shoving them into Mar-a-Lago, and then raiding Mar-a-Lago for those documents. Can you unpack this for us?
Look, it's not the first time this has happened. Like you said, Bob McDonnell, right? Russiagate. Again, Donald Trump was a target there, and we'll get to Donald Trump here in a second. But they also did it to the former senator from the state of Alaska, who tragically ended up dying. And the DOJ was caught withholding evidence of innocence. The prosecutors did that to the guy that preceded Murkowski. I can't remember his name, but the U.S. senator from Alaska. And one of his staffers or somebody in the government actually committed suicide as a result of those unconstitutional charges. These are real things. But I bring this out not just to highlight the tragedy, but the repeated pattern of political hijacking by the Justice Department for serving a political need. And now we get to Donald Trump's case down in the Mar-a-Lago case. So I was a representative, one of two human beings on earth that was Donald Trump's representatives to NARA, the librarians, the National Archives. And after we left the administration, the Trump administration in January of 2021. And what's supposed to happen is the librarians are supposed to service the documents of the former president to be released to the American people, as they've been doing for 240, 50 years, whatever the number is. And so I said, hey, Mr. Librarian, can we please have the documents that Donald Trump declassified and everything else that the American public are entitled to? And the chief lawyer over there, this guy named Gary Stern, has now been outed by his own emails. Remember, the best evidence of their own corruption is their stuff. This guy says, oh, Mr. Patel, you don't have a security clearance. It's kind of hilarious since I have the highest one in the world, but we'll put that aside. Then it's like, oh, I got to talk to this guy. I got to talk to that guy. I got to talk to this guy. So for like a year, we get this runaround. So of course, and then they're like, we don't even really know where the stuff is. We don't know what you're talking about. What does Judge Cannon do? What did she do last week? She unseals documents that were cleverly asked for by Donald Trump's defense attorney, saying, Judge, we need these unredacted and shown to the world because we have a suspicion of what's underneath them. What did they find out? That Jack Smith's DOJ, Biden White House, and NARA were in direct communication when the requested documents in question were asked to be released. And Gary Stern wrote to Biden's White House chief counsel and two of the senior most attorneys at the Department of Justice saying, what do I do here? And they, the DOJ and the White House counsel, responded essentially, give them the Heisman. Don't believe me? Go read Judge Cannon's orders with the emails from the Biden White House, the DOJ, and the NARA guy, Gary Stern. This is a perfect example of what the Biden administration has architected, a two-tier system of justice that they have directed. And remember, they lied about it. Biden said, we have nothing to do with these prosecutions. Oh, the White House counsel is not talking to anybody. DOJ is an independent body. They're not talking to anybody. They're all coordinating with NARA. And that became the crux that launched the Donald Trump prosecution. And the second piece of it, real quick, that what Judge Cannon also found out and unredacted and unsealed and sent to the world was, where were these boxes of personal papers that Donald Trump had? They were in the possession of Joe Biden's GSA, government services agencies. They do general government work. What do you mean? Where is that? Oh, that's in Washington, D.C. Well, when were the boxes there? After the president, Donald Trump, left the office. So they were sitting there for months. And then the GSA, the Biden GSA, calls Trump down to Mar-a-Lago, not him directly, but his team, and says, come get this stuff. Then Jack Smith, as a result of the NARA-funded operation by DOJ and Biden's White House, and the GSA shipping boxes down to Mar-a-Lago, Jack Smith goes and says, well, it wasn't illegal for everyone else to possess these documents. It became illegal in transit, so we're going to go after you, Donald Trump. I would love an answer for that.
So, I just want to burrow down, because you've obviously held some of the highest. You hold some of the highest clearances. You really understand how these systems work. But for somebody like me, who's just looking from the outside, 35,000 foot perspective. So the government was in possession of all of the illegal or classified documents that they raided Trump for. Is that correct? Yes?
We have per Judge Cannon's unsealing, that seems to be the case. The problem is Jack Smith's DOJ is withholding the rest of the information. So what we now know is at least a chunk of the boxes are the ones that were held by GSA. And in the normal course of government, they would hold them all. It's not like they'd say, we're taking this and not that. So that's what I believe happened. And Jack Smith's problem is now he's been caught saying, we don't know what documents were in which boxes. That's per Jack Smith's own admission. We, the DOJ, lied to you, Judge. They just filed this on Friday night because that's what they do. They were like, no one's paying attention. Friday night, all the libs are at some rich person's happy hour. And so basically, I don't trust this guy. This guy first initiated this unconstitutional prosecution, rigged the system with Joe Biden and NARA, and then had the boxes sent down to Mar-a-Lago. And now he's telling us, Jack Smith is telling us, I actually don't know which papers were in which boxes. So I'm not sure what to do here, Judge. We just wanted to let you know. Well, you know what? I don't believe you for a second. That's criminal. You should be prosecuted. You should be held in contempt of court, Jack Smith. You should go to prison. In that case, should be tossed.
Amazing. So our breakdown, our very simple breakdown of this is correct, though. The government had a large portion of the boxes. They literally shut for like a year. Mm-hmm. Then they demanded they all be moved down to Donald Trump's home. They demanded that they shove the boxes into Trump's house, and then Trump gets raided. How is that not a criminal setup?
Right. And then remember the WhatsApp warrant, and they're saying, where they unredact my name, but they redacted the rest of the warrant because they wanted to throw gasoline on a fire and say, oh my God, Kash Patel's involved. And then Judge Cannon actually unredacted the rest of what was around my name. And do you know what was around it? A Breitbart article that I did an interview for. That was publicly available information. Very highly classified stuff. You can't have that out there in the ether. They just want to gaslight the whole thing. So, before I make a definitive decision, I think I know where this is going. I hope Judge Cannon continues down this track because I need a little bit more information before we legally conclude what happens. But we now know what has been politically occurring the entire time. We also know Donald Trump's constitutional rights have been violated, at least in some form, in terms of due process with this prosecution by Jack Smith. So Judge Cannon, I think she's done a fantastic job, and I think she's the only jurist in modern history here with Donald Trump to actually apply the Constitution. So I hope and I think we need her to keep doing that. And then maybe we could get one person at Congress. After I sent out that Truth Social, I think I included in that one, I said, is there any one person who is willing to send one subpoena? You just found out that the deep state, who did Russiagate, who did Jan 6, who did 51 Intel letter, who did all of the Trump prosecutions and gave Joe Biden a hall pass and gave Hillary Clinton a hall pass way back when, has done the same exact thing and buried evidence of innocence and set up the very target they want to take down by using a two-tier system of justice. Where is anybody in Congress sending one subpoena for Jack Smith to show up tomorrow and testify, to demand the documents tomorrow and unredact them and show them to the American public? Where is anyone? We, the American taxpayers, are funding this through our taxpayer dollars that go to DOJ and FBI, and our representatives in DC in the swamp are permitting it. I don't know who I'm more pissed off
at. I guess the implosion. I guess I haven't seen since Russiagate an implosion of a larger narrative. You have to rewind the clock. You have to have a good memory. But I remember the articles about the nuclear codes being shoved down Trump's pants. Right, the idea was that Trump smuggled these things out of the White House on his person, and shove in Melania's unmentionables. He was stealing this stuff from it couldn't be more untrue. It was it's like a creation. All of it. It's Bob McDonald 2.0. It's Russiagate 2.0. They've just made a narrative. They've just created a narrative to try and smear the guy and destroy his political career. But I don't actually think it's working. There's one thing. Yeah, please.
Sorry. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt for all the naysayers out there, CNN, MSNBC, and all the people that continue to make up how the Constitution works. Let's say that Donald Trump wasn't set up by the Biden Department of Justice that we just saw. Let's say Donald Trump didn't have attorneys at NARA coordinating with the White House counsel. Let's say Donald Trump did not have Joe Biden revoke presidential privilege for the first time in U.S. history to allow this prosecution to take place. Let's say the GSA didn't send the boxes down to Mar-a-Lago. Let's say everything lands in Judge Cannon's courtroom after Jack Smith brings his prosecution, and the only paperwork we look at is Jack Smith. Judge, we mishandled the evidence in the case. I can't tell you which document goes in which box, meaning I can't tell you where it was found. As a former national security prosecutor and public defender, that's it. The case is over. You literally just admitted to tampering with evidence, and now you want the court and the American public to believe, even though we lied to you, withheld evidence, shuffled it around, believe us on everything else, we'll fix it, everything's okay, nothing to see here. Forget everything else you and I talked about, which has all now been proven true. Now you have the prosecutor himself bending the knee and saying, pretty please, let me continue. And it would be unconstitutional for him to continue this charade.
I mean, that's bombshell stuff. I look forward to this going absolutely thermonuclear and when we clip that out. Kash, final thing though that has been such a mystery to me that I gotta ask because it keeps getting brought back up.
Yeah,
this missing CIA binder. What the hell's going on with that thing? Is that a setup? Is that a fake story? I don't know, and I've never really just gone out and just stripped all the meat off the bone and asked. Is that a fake story? Did the CIA really lose their binder? What's going on there? Is that part of the setup? Do they shove that in Trump's documents and then ship them down to Mar-a-Lago? What's going on?
I think I need some clarification. So when you say CIA binder, are you talking about
the Russiagate interference in the 2016 election missing binder that we keep seeing headline about?
It's not missing. Listen, we worked on that when we were at Russiagate, and all I can tell you, since it's still classified, is basically we put 2,000 man hours into the people that created what John Brennan ordered be done in 2 weeks, was the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment. What we said was, we want to investigate how you came to such definitive conclusions in 2 weeks that Vladimir Putin basically rigged the entire American electoral system. So we went in and did interviews, and we went in and looked at documents. And what did we do? We wrote a report, and we wrote multiple versions of it. And we said, this needs to be released. And it got buried by Adam Smith when the House flipped back then, so we couldn't get it out. Then when Donald Trump came to office and I became Deputy Director of National Intelligence, and later when Johnny Ratcliffe became DNI, great guy, he tried to get that out, that document binder, whatever you want to call it, that memorandum. Let's just go with that. And do you know who stopped it? Gina Haspel, the very lady that authored Russiagate while being chief of station in London, who authorized the FBI to come in and conduct and begin the Russiagate scam, because that's under the law. She has to do that. Why would she do that? What does she have to hide? Why is Gina Haspel currently working at Chris Wray's old law firm as a senior advisor and national security official making 7 figures? How about, why does Rod Rosenstein also work there? The guy that signed the illegal warrant to surveil Donald Trump and said he would wear a wire under the 25th Amendment because Andy McCabe, the deputy director, asked him to. These people are all connected. And that the reason they don't want that document out is because if you thought the Nunes memo was a scorcher, this thing nukes the entire game. And it's not lost. It's in a skiff. It's in a room. Everybody knows where it is. It's been there forever. And Gina Haspel came in with the likes of Cipollone and all the other Trump haters and scared everybody into saying, oh, you can't release this. You know, it will end the world. Remember, the Nunes memo was going to end the world. Britain would stop talking to us. America would be under fire. The Five Eyes would be like, you guys are lunatics. You don't know what you're doing. No, we just exposed the biggest corruption scandal of our lifetime and probably U.S. history. We just didn't get that last segment, that last binder or memo out. And, you know, it needs to come out. And Congress, once again, they've seen it. Not all of them, a couple of them. Why don't you put it out? Congress actually has the lawful authority to take that document and say, we are releasing it for the American public. They have that power.
Wow. So this is the missing piece in Russiagate.
It is the missing, final like 17 chapters, and we need the 18th to come out. And that's this memo, right? It is, in my opinion, done professionally. And we had career people do it. I don't even know what their politics were. Literally, like that's what they did for like 6 months. And it was just like the Russiagate investigation. Interviews, documentations from the IC, all that stuff was looked at, analyzed, biases, who told you to do what, were there any orders, and all that was put in one place to say, this is what John Brennan ordered the IC to do. These are our findings on why that is or is not a good thing. And these are the people that did it. And this is what we determined their credibility to be based on X, Y, and Z. I think it's something the American people would want to know, because what happened at the end of the what happened at the end of the Obama administration? Brennan, who's been caught lying to Congress under oath and illegally surveilling Senate staffers for one, and called Donald Trump everything you can call him, is the guy that authored this thing. He ordered it. He basically said, we're doing this in 2 weeks. You can't do that kind of intel lift in 2 weeks. It's impossible. So it was only right of us to go in there and say, maybe you got it right, but there's a chance you got it wrong. And since now we know what happened with the Nunes memo and the FBI and DOJ at FISA and the court there, what do you think happened with that ICA report?
I sleep well at night. I sleep like a baby, actually, all things considered, knowing that you're advising Trump on staff selections for his next term. However, I can't imagine a more serious choice than the CIA director, the attorney general, right? The people who are going to have to un-F this system, because the system is totally and entirely broken. And we can't have a country if nobody trusts the Justice Department. We can't have a country if nobody trusts federal law enforcement. We can't have a country if everyone thinks that the CIA and the tools of espionage that we fund are turned on the American people. It doesn't work. It won't work, right? It won't work. We'll descend into Stalinist level, like red purge, red scare chaos.
No,
and
you're absolutely right.
I think we're already here. And so you are advising Donald Trump. You're very close. Like the final question, I know it's a big one, Kash, but his final question, how do you unwind this nightmare, right? How do you un-F this system?
You go buy the best-selling book, Government Gangsters, and watch the movie, which is coming out in 4 weeks that we partnered with Steve Bannon. Yes, selfish plug, bestseller. Go buy the book.
Please.
No, literally.
We'll play the trailer. Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's doable. It's going to be a monumental lift that can only be done under President Trump's leadership. And how you do it is you don't take the bait. And this is what I told the Nevada State GOP convention this weekend in Tahoe. Don't take the bait. Don't ask for the overcorrection. Don't bend the knee to the left's radical left-wing ideology and projection and hypocrisy of us. We are the constitutional law-abiding citizens. We are the ones that don't want corruption in government. We are the ones that don't participate in that. So don't take that step where they say disband the FBI. No, we can't do that. Disband the DOD, disband the IC. But I'm 100% with you that we need serious reforms in all of it. And the way you start it is with Trump in office, personnel, the entire C-suite's cleared out. And here's the good thing. I thought we were going to have to find out more and more who these deep state operatives were. They're signing public letters. They're calling themselves out. They're issuing posts on social media. Great. So if Donald Trump were to win, we actually have a great starting point of people who don't support his administration. And then you implement things like Schedule F. And then you go to Congress and say, hey, stop funding these illegal activities. And since Christopher Wray broke the law 275,000 times in 1 year to illegally surveil use FISA to illegally surveil Americans, maybe we don't give him a new FBI headquarters building. This isn't rocket science, right? This is simple stuff to curtail the deep state and destroy it. Send FBI agents into the streets of America to chase down bank robbers and murderers and child rapists instead of planting them in DC for a 3-year rotation. Who needs that? For what purpose? Shut down the FBI headquarters building and make it like the size of one football field instead of the size of 10. No, I'm serious. Have cops go be cops, have lawyers go be lawyers, and then trim down massively almost every agency and department, because this is how government gangsters live in DC. Every year they go to Congress and say, we need more money. We got to get bigger. And if you let us, we'll go out and eat more of the landscape. Well, what if you don't need to be bigger? No one ever pushes back and says, why do you need more money? Why do you need more bodies? Why do you need more access? And it's because they justify their existence to their deep state swamp buddies by saying, look how big we got under my leadership. Our budget went up. Our billets went up. And we just got to shut all of that down. There's a million other things we can do, but basically you hit the nail on the head. We got to get Donald Trump elected. That's mission one. We do that, and we are on a great course and trajectory to demolishing the deep state.
Ladies and gentlemen, Government Gangsters, a book that you can buy, of course, at governmentgangsters.com and at Kash Patel's website, but also the movie coming out. Very excited about that. Kash, please come on between now and then, and we'll do the full trailer, and we'll do a special on the movie, on the Government Gangsters movie.
Oh, I love that. Thanks so much, man. And great show as always, and keep firing. You, everywhere I go, they're like, I watched Benny. I saw the headline. It was great.
Godspeed, Kash.
Thank you.